A little mic adjustment real quick here. Awesome. All right, so the question I have for all of you tonight, before I launch into my taboo tale, is one of those age-old questions that's plagued man since the dawn of time. It's like boxers or briefs. It's like, why do men have nipples? The question is, would you rather be, if you had to pick, would you rather be deaf or blind? You know what, let's just take a vote here. Think about it for a second. Would you rather be blind or deaf? Let's hear it for blind. Anybody? Blind? Anybody? I am gonna, everybody who raised their hand there, I'm gonna find you after the show. Okay. So that might seem like a silly question coming from me, right? But the truth is, I actually played this game with my sister back when we were kids, right? Would you rather be blind or deaf? Well, my sister always picked deaf. And I always picked between blind and deaf. I said I'd rather be dead, right? Because at least when you're dead, there's freedom, right? It's over. Everybody's got to go sometime. But when you're blind, it's like this perpetual state of dependence and helplessness. And it's for people who don't mind giving up every last shred of human dignity. And that was a tough point of view to have, given that I spent so much of my early childhood in and out of the hospital, right? Having eye procedures that were risky, trying to maintain my vision. Each procedure was this nerve-wracking attempt to hold on to my sight, which was, to me, literally more precious than life itself. I lived in fear of becoming blind, and when I became a teenager, I reasoned that the worst part about it would probably be that it'd be impossible to get laid. Who was going to lay a blind guy, right? Not that I was doing a really good job of it as it was. I mean, I was still a virgin, and granted, I could only see out of one eye, right? Not well enough to drive or play basketball at night. But I wasn't blind, damn it. And I was bound and determined to get laid by somebody at some point in time who thought I was cool, even though I couldn't quite believe it myself. And then, it finally happened. I met this girl, she was awesome, and she thought I was cute. Did I mention that she was blind? It's even more ironic now than I realized at the time. We met at a scholarship convention, okay, for people who were blind. I didn't know quite what she saw in me. But the truth is, I figured that in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man was king. Right? So, we're talking for hours, and we're really hitting it off. And then I put on my favorite Nick Drake CD, we're listening to it. And as we're listening, she just leaned in and kissed me. And it was that simple. Did I mention that in addition to being blind, she was also really, really drunk? She was. I learned something very important at that scholarship convention. It turns out that blind people get drunk and horny just like sighted people. But the most surprising part about having sex with her was the shower we took afterwards. Right? We got to shower together, and I handed her the soap and the shampoo and then the towel, and I felt really good. Like, you know, I could do all these great things for her. Like, I was capable. And maybe this had something to do with the afterglow of our sex. But it was a good feeling nonetheless. I was like her guide dog, only I'd gotten to hump her without being yelled at. So I lost my virginity to a blind girl, and I was really happy about it. But I was not convinced that blindness was for me. It was fine for other people, that's where I drew the line. And then, 3 years later, during my junior year of college, I'm sitting in my Latin American politics class. I'm listening to a lecture about the Mexican Revolution, minding my own business, and the lights got turned up, right? They seemed really bright, and then they seemed really painful, and then everything started to go blurry. And I waited till class was over and somehow made it to academic services. I didn't want to inconvenience anybody with my impending blindness, right? But there I was at academic services, and they rushed me to the hospital, and the doctor said that I had a corneal ulcer, and it might be months before I saw again. 2 years went by. 2 years in which I got pretty good at masquerading as a blind person. I got my own guide dog. I learned how to use a talking computer, but I did not for a second think of myself as really blind, because I never gave up hope that I was going to get my vision back. And then, the day of the corneal transplant arrived. It had been 2 years, and this was my miracle. I joked with my sister on the way to the hospital to remove the bandages. I joked with her to relieve the tension, and I was like, you know, this is going to be just like in that movie where the guy, you know, he gets his sight back and he sees the girl's face, and it's like, whoo, you know, miracle. And maybe I could sell my story to a Hollywood producer and get rich off the royalties. Yeah. And then I could cut my sister in on some of it, maybe. In the doctor's office, at the hospital, this Indian woman, she removes the bandages from my eye. And the only thing missing is a Hollywood soundtrack as I'm blinking back these tears and peering around the room. I'd been waiting 2 years for this, and the tension was incredible. And I couldn't see shit. And I didn't know how to break this incredibly disappointing news. And when the doctor asked me what I could see, I was just like, well, you know, like I was studying some sort of mysterious puzzle. And in truth, it was a mysterious puzzle, because I could kind of make out shapes and colors, but nothing made any sense. And this was definitely not the script I'd been planning to sell to a Hollywood producer. I was completely devastated. I spent the next month or so in my room, in the dark, wondering how this could have happened. I mean, I'd spent my whole life trying to avoid this, fearing this, and then here it was, and it felt like my life should be over. Only it just kept on going. One night, I was in my room listening to Elliott Smith. Exactly. I figured if anybody could get me, it was him, right? The guy had stabbed himself in the heart and committed suicide. He cornered the market on tragedy. Plus, his songs were so catchy, you know? I felt so ugly before. I didn't know what to do. as I'm in my room listening to this song in the dark, I suddenly begin to weep uncontrollably. I just wept and wept for my lost sight, for my now blind self, and this life that I had never wanted. And then I wept because it felt so good to finally give expression to a sadness that was running so deep. And it didn't work. I didn't get my sight back. It turns out that tears do not cure blindness. But after that night with Elliot Smith, it was a turning point. Things got easier. I'd been into spirituality before losing my vision. But then I started studying and reading with this incredible thirst. A Course in Miracles was my favorite, and it talked about how the physical world was just this illusion, right? And the only thing real was the love underneath. And at that point in time, the physical world did seem like a real illusion to me. And the love, that part was starting to resonate in a really profound way. So I went on living my life as a blind person. And damned if it wasn't nearly, it was not nearly as bad as I'd imagined. Not that it was one big picnic, right? Don't get me wrong. There were some shitty parts, right? Like having to rely on people for rides, or for help to go to the bus stop, or to explain things to me at movie theaters, or in crowded, noisy places, or to throw money into my guitar case while I sit on the street corner and play the blues. Okay, scratch that last one. There is an upshot to all this. The upshot has been that people are so amazingly helpful. They genuinely want to reach out. And the blindness is just this big fat excuse, right? It's like I experienced back when I lost my virginity. It's that same feeling of being capable, of feeling helpful and good. And the best part about being blind, I discovered, is that it's not impossible to get laid. It's true. It's actually easier. I mean, the guide dog does not hurt. He's adorable, and he's a chick magnet. And, you know, it's not such a bad rap, honestly. Women would literally come up to me in bars, and they'd say, "Can I feel your face? Do you want to feel my face?" I would just be like, "What?" I was always really polite. I never said this, right? But in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, why would I want to feel your face? There are so many other things I'd rather be feeling than you are. I eventually met the love of my life in Brazil. Her name's Rita. She's right here. And I don't know to this day exactly what she looks like.
Beautiful.
The thing is, I don't care. I know that we love each other very much. I know that we complement each other in amazing ways, and that's all that matters. That and the fact that she's never said, "Do you want to feel my face?" So I started off with that age-old question, would you rather be blind or deaf? And now that I'm complete with this little talk, I hope you all know the right answer. I'd rather be blind, of course, because you get to wear cool sunglasses at night. And not be labeled a douchebag. But of course, it doesn't matter what experience you pick, because in the end, all human conditions are just different sides to the same multifaceted diamond. No one is better or worse. No one is harder or easier. In the end, what matters is how each of us can open up to the awe-inspiring beauty of the diamond itself. Thank you.